What if I told you that everything you're chasing is already chasing you? You're just blocking it. This book unlocked what years of struggle couldn't. This is not just a book. It's a portal to the life you've been praying for. In a world full of chaos, distractions, and doubts, one book is quietly transforming lives across the globe. Manifest and Receive by Eva Hartley isn't just another law of attraction manual. It's a spiritual wake-up call. Whether you want financial freedom, true love, inner peace, or purpose, this video breaks down the essence of that transformation. Stick around, because your next breakthrough may be one belief away. Today we dive into 13 life-changing truths from Manifest and Receive by Eva Hartley, a book that holds the power to transform your life forever, because if you embody these principles, everything you desire won't just be possible, it will become inevitable. Number 1. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. These words are simple on the surface, yet when you sit in silence and truly feel them, they carry the weight of a lifetime's truth, one that Eva Hartley pours into the pages of her book like a sacred whisper from the soul. Most people go through life thinking that desire alone is the driver of destiny, that if they want something bad enough, success, love, peace, healing, the sheer intensity of that wanting will somehow pull it toward them like metal to a magnet. But this belief is not only flawed, it is the very reason many people never receive the things they cry for at night or daydream about in silence. Because wanting is not attracting, is not deciding, is not at wanting, in fact, often means you are reinforcing the absence of what you desire. When you say, I want love, you are unconsciously affirming that love is missing. When you say, I want success, you are declaring to the universe that you're still without it. So the vibration you are emitting is not one of fulfillment, but of lack, of emptiness, of yearning, of being incomplete. The universe, like an echo chamber, does not respond to the words you speak, but to the energy you carry. It hears not your wishes, but your frequency. This is where Eva Hartley shifts the entire paradigm. She teaches that manifestation is not about begging or convincing the universe to give you something. It is about becoming the version of yourself who already has it, thinks from it, lives in it. You must embody the state of already being that which you desire to receive. This is not mere positive thinking. This is energetic identity. You can't cheat this system. You can't fake it with words while secretly vibrating with fear, doubt, jealousy, or scarcity. You become a match, not by forcing results, but by shifting your inner reality. Want a different life? Become a different version of yourself. One that aligns not with the pain of your past, but the peace of your potential. When you become abundance, abundance finds you. When you become love, love is drawn to you. Now, today we are going to continue. When you become peace, your chaos dissolves. It's no longer about saying the right affirmations at 6 a.m. or journaling your dreams with scented candles. It's about recalibrating your energy field, moment by moment, into coherence with what you claim to want. Eva often uses the analogy of a radio tower. Every emotion, every thought, every belief you hold is a broadcast frequency. If you're tuned to 88.7 FM, but your dream life is broadcasting at 104.3, it doesn't matter how loudly you scream into the sky. You won't hear the song unless you shift your frequency. That's why so many people give up on manifestation and say, it doesn't work. But it's not the principle that's broken. It's the user that's misaligned. So how do you realign? So you sow Say you broke your way to the moon. The same day you realign, first you get radically honest. Who are you? Really? In the quiet of your own mind. What do you believe you deserve deep down when no one's watching? Because your outer life is a mirror of your inner patterns. Eva invites us to observe our emotional default settings. Do you walk through the world in gratitude or resentment? Do you assume things will work out or that everything always goes wrong? Your assumptions aren't harmless thoughts, they are energetic blueprints. The universe is not biased toward good or bad. It simply reflects your dominant vibration. That's why people who always expect miracles often receive them, and those who expect betrayal often attract it again and again. It's not because they're lucky or cursed. It's because their inner self-pigment acts like a magnet. You're not getting what you want, you're getting who you are. And that's both the warning and the breakthrough. Because once you realize this, you're no longer a victim of circumstance, but a conscious co-creator of your life. You begin to walk differently. You begin to speak from certainty instead of desperation. You don't hope for love, you embody the vibration of being loved and lovable. You don't hustle for validation, you stand in your worth as someone who already has value. You stop begging life to be kind to you, and instead, you start treating yourself with such kindness and respect that the world has no choice but to mirror it. Eva reminds us that the inner world and outer world are not two. They are reflections. And you can't fake who you are to the mirror. It will always show you back your true face. So if you desire abundance, become someone who feels safe with money, not afraid of it. If you desire healing, stop identifying as broken. If you want better relationships, stop carrying the identity of someone who is always abandoned. Start rewriting the script in your soul, not just in your mouth. Because energy doesn't lie, and neither does the universe. It will meet you not at your level of need, but at your level of self-identity. The great secret is this: when you raise your frequency to match your desire, the desire no longer feels far. It feels inevitable. That's how manifestation works, not as a trick of chance, but as a spiritual equation. Your being equals your receiving. And this doesn't happen overnight. You will have to confront the deepest wounds of unworthiness. You'll have to unlearn decades of survival-based thinking. You'll have to stretch into new emotional ranges, where joy no longer feels foreign and safety is no longer tied to suffering. And safety is no longer tied to suffering. This is not easy work, but it is sacred work. And it is the only path that truly transforms. Because nothing around you can shift until the energy within you does. You'll notice this when you begin to vibrate higher. Suddenly, people who once ignored you now respect you. Opportunities that were once locked shut now open with ease. Why? Because you've changed the magnet. You've updated your signal. You're no longer saying, please pick me, but radiating, I know who I am. And the world moves in response to that kind of clarity. You'll stop needing things so badly, and ironically that's when they start flowing in. You'll stop checking the clock and the calendar because you're no longer in a rush. You trust the process. You become calm, grounded, centered, and from that state, all things begin to move toward you. You may lose some people, yes. You may outgrow certain environments. That's the price of becoming, but you'll gain yourself. And from that inner gain, outer riches flow. That's what Eva Hartley's message truly means. Manifestation isn't about getting things. It's about returning to who you were before you were told you weren't enough. It's about peeling away the masks, shedding the fear, healing the scarcity, and choosing again and again to be the version of you that matches the life you dream about. It's no longer about chasing, it's about becoming. And once you become it, truly, deeply, consistently, you don't have to force anything. You simply receive. Because now you are the magnet. Number 2, desperation blocks reception. There is a quiet force that repels blessings faster than any curse. A silent energy that pushes away the very things you pray for, and that force is desperation. Desperation is not just a feeling, it is a vibration, an energy signature that screams to the universe, I do not believe I will receive. It is rooted not in faith, but in fear, not in alignment, but in panic. Eva Hartley teaches this profound truth with piercing clarity. The moment you begin to beg, plead, and chase what you want, you shift out of the energy of magnetism and into the energy of resistance. Desperation is not passion, it is not desire, it is lack, disguised as intensity. It tells the universe that you believe the thing you desire is far, unavailable, withheld, or worse, impossible. And so, your energy becomes out of sync with the frequency of receiving. Imagine standing in a field and shouting at the sky for rain, screaming louder and louder, panicking that it may never come. And all the while, the clouds hover quietly, waiting for your stillness, your trust, your surrender, so they can pour. This is how life responds to us. The louder your internal chaos, the slower the manifestation arrives. And the tragedy is, so many people confuse desperation with devotion. Confuse desperation with devotion. They say, I've wanted this so bad for so long. Why hasn't it come? But what they don't realize is that the very neediness of their wanting is sending out a signal of energetic unworthiness. The universe reads your signal, not your sentences. And when your signal is soaked in fear, anxiety, and time-based urgency, you unintentionally affirm that what you want is separate from you, beyond you, maybe even above you. Desperation operates from a place of inner poverty. It says, if I don't get this, I am not whole, I am not safe, I am not enough. And so your entire being becomes a repelling force, not because you're unworthy, but because your energy is distorted. Eva Hartley reveals that the path to reception is not through control or clinging, but through calmness and certainty. To receive what you want, you must become the person who would naturally have it. And that person is never desperate. 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 That person is aligned. That person is steady. That person trusts. Think about it. The most magnetic people you've ever met weren't the ones begging for attention. They were the ones who knew their worth, who walked in rooms like they belonged there, who expected goodness and therefore attracted it. Their secret wasn't arrogance, it was alignment. The same is true for everything you're trying to manifest. Whether it's love, wealth, healing, or opportunity, it cannot land in a space of energetic chaos. It cannot bloom in soil drenched in self-doubt. When you're desperate, you suffocate the process. You hold the dream so tightly that you squeeze the life out of it. You constantly check if it's coming, when it's coming, how it's coming, and every time you do, you emit a vibration of distrust. You're saying to the universe, I don't believe it's on its way, so I must keep checking. And when you do that, you cannot bloom and end up saying to the universe, I don't believe it's on its way, so I must keep checking. But just like a watched pot never boils, a constantly doubted manifestation never arrives. Eva explains that true receiving happens in the state of detachment. Not detachment from the desire, but from the outcome. It is the sacred in-between space, where you can deeply want something while also being at peace if it doesn't arrive on your timeline. That's not passivity, that's power. Because when you release the grip of desperation, you make room for destiny. You become an open vessel instead of a clenched fist. You shift from please let it come to of course it's coming. And in that shift, everything begins to move. Desperation also lowers your self-perception. When you chase love with desperation, you accept crumbs. When you chase money with desperation, you make poor decisions. When you chase validation with desperation, you lose yourself. It is a hunger that cannot be fed because its root is not the absence of things, but the absence of trust. Eva calls this the starvation of the soul, where you are so empty inside that you look to the outside world to fill you, but you're so frantic in that search that everything keeps slipping through your hands. That's why some people attract a little success and then lose it, or find a little love only to sabotage it. Because desperation creates instability. It cannot hold what it catches, like water in shaking hands. So, what's the solution? You slow down. You regulate your nervous system. You ground your body. You remind yourself, what is mine is already finding me. I don't need to chase it. I need to align with it. You stop performing and start becoming. You stop asking, when will it come? And start affirming, I am becoming the version of me who naturally receives this. You treat yourself with so much care, so much reverence, so much worthiness that the universe takes note. Desperation evaporates when you realize you are the source. You are not missing anything. You are not running out of time. You are not falling behind. Your desire is not being withheld. It is being prepared. Your job is not to grab it by force, but to match it by frequency. When you begin to walk through the world with that kind of energetic certainty, life softens in your favor. The phone call comes. The offer appears. The right person notices you. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped blocking it. You got out of your own way. You surrendered your fear. You began to embody trust. And trust is the soil where miracles grow. It is the quiet knowing that what's meant for you cannot miss you, and what misses you was never yours to begin with. Eva teaches that trust is the opposite of desperation, and trust must be practiced, not just preached. It shows up in how you speak to yourself when nothing is happening, in how you hold faith when the evidence says otherwise, in how you choose peace over panic again and again. This inner rewiring is the real work of manifestation, not the vision boards, not the 5-step rituals, but the moment-by-moment decision to stay aligned even in the unknown, even in the delay, even in the silence, especially in the silence, because that is where your vibration speaks the loudest. And the universe always responds to your signal. When you finally let go of the chase, when you stop vibrating with desperation and begin to vibrate with deep-rooted faith, you become magnetic, truly magnetic. You stop talking about how much you want it, and you start moving like it's already yours. You shift from doubt to destiny. You become a calm receiver instead of a panicked seeker. And the world around you, like a mirror, long fogged up, begins to reflect that inner shift with breathtaking precision. That is the secret Eva Hartley whispers between the lines of her book. The moment you release desperation, the universe breathes a sigh of relief, because now, finally, you are ready to receive. Number 3. Feeling is the frequency of receiving. If there is one secret that separates those who manifest with ease from those who struggle for years without results, it is this. Feeling is the frequency of receiving. Not thinking, not wishing, not hoping, but feeling deeply, fully in every cell of your being is the true magnet that pulls your desire into your reality. Eva Hartley returns to this truth again and again, not because it is poetic, but because it is the essence of manifestation. The universe responds not to the words you say, but to the emotional tone you live in. You can say 1,000 affirmations with your mouth, but if your heart is soaked in fear and your nervous system is vibrating in lack, then you are not a match for what you want, no matter how beautifully you say it. This is where most people go wrong. They think that manifestation is mental, but it is energetic. They focus on scripting, journaling, and visualizing, all of which are helpful tools. But if they do not engage the emotional body, they are simply writing stories that never leave the page. Eva teaches that your emotions are the language of the universe, and every emotion carries a frequency. Joy vibrates high, gratitude vibrates high, love, certainty, peace, empowerment, all of them operate in the range where manifestation flows easily. But fear, worry, anxiety, jealousy, self-doubt, these drag your frequency down and block your ability to receive. It's not about punishing yourself for low emotions. You are human after all. But it is about becoming conscious of your dominant emotional state and understanding that it is not neutral. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are sending out a broadcast. That broadcast either says, I trust, or it says, I lack. It either says, I have, or it says, I am still waiting. And the universe does not listen to the content of your prayers. It listens to the energy beneath them. You could pray for abundance every night, but if you live each day in the emotion of fear and financial panic, you are still aligned with scarcity. You are not receiving from your desire, you are reacting from your wound. That's why Eva emphasizes the importance of embodiment. To manifest love, don't just write about your ideal partner. Feel what it would be like to already be in that relationship. Wake up in that energy. Move through your day as if you are already cherished, safe, held, adored. Speak to yourself with the tone of someone who is loved. Dress like someone who is desired. Walk like someone who is not searching but chosen. That feeling, not the story, is what pulls the reality closer. It's the same with money. Don't just visualize wealth. Feel into abundance. What would safety feel like in your body if you knew all your needs were met? What would peace feel like if you didn't have to hustle to survive? What would joy feel like if money flowed with ease, without guilt or shame? That emotional state is the target, and once you feel it consistently, even before the thing arrives, you become the frequency of it. You match the energy of your future, and therefore you meet it in the present. Because manifestation is not a future-based act. It is a now-based alignment. This is the paradox that Eva makes so beautifully clear. You must feel it before it comes. You must be it before you see it. You must live as if, not pretend, not fake, but genuinely embody the emotion of the thing you're calling in. This is where most people get stuck. They wait for the result to give them permission to feel. I'll feel confident once I have success. I'll feel happy once I find love. I'll feel grateful once the money comes. But Eva flips the script. She says, the feeling is not the result. It's the cause. The universe does not reward feelings after the blessing arrives. The universe releases the blessing because you already feel as if it's here. This is why gratitude is so powerful. Not because it's polite, but because it creates a signal of completion. When you say thank you in advance, you tell the universe, I already know it's done. You collapse the timeline between your now and your desire. Gratitude is the feeling of receiving before receiving. And that is a frequency the universe cannot ignore. But this is not easy at first, especially if life has taught you to brace for disappointment. If your nervous system is wired for survival, if your heart has been broken, if your expectations have been crushed again and again, then feeling good can feel dangerous. That's why Eva teaches that this practice of emotional alignment must begin with safety. You must learn to feel good without fear, to feel joy without guilt, to feel worthy without earning it. You train your body slowly, lovingly, gently to hold positive emotion as a safe, natural state. Not something that gets punished, but something that gets multiplied. You allow your inner child, long denied, to believe again, and from that place, you begin to unlock the true power of feeling. It's not performance, it's presence. When you feel like someone who already has what they want, you stop chasing, you stop doubting, you stop questioning whether it's working. Your very vibration says, I am. And that's the most powerful statement in the universe. I am abundant. I am loved. I am whole. Those words, when felt, not just spoken, become the seeds of manifestation. They turn your being into fertile ground. They turn your frequency into a beacon. And life begins to respond. Not always instantly, but inevitably. Because when you hold the right feeling long enough, the outer world eventually matches the inner world. It cannot resist the pull. This is what Eva means when she says that manifestation is a process of becoming, not begging. When you become the emotional match, the desire has no choice but to appear. It's like tuning a radio. If you want to hear classical music, you don't beg the radio to play it. You simply tune to the right frequency. And once you're tuned in, the music is already there. You didn't create it, you aligned with it. In the same way, your dream life already exists. Not as fiction, but as frequency. Your job is to feel your way into it. To live as if. To love as if. To lead as if. We are so fortunate to be living in a time where there is so much option and where you feel your way into it. To live as if, to live as if, to live as if, in the way you are, you have to feel your way into it. To be teacher, to be loved, to breathe as if. Every day, not as a chore, but as a sacred practice. And when it gets hard, and it will, you come back to the feeling. Not the image, not the outcome, but the feeling. Because feelings are the fuel, they are the signal, they are the point. This is why people who feel good tend to live good lives. It's not coincidence, it's cause and effect. Your dominant emotional state writes your destiny. That's the message Eva delivers with both compassion and fire. You are already broadcasting your future with every emotion you choose today. So choose wisely, choose boldly, choose consciously. You may not control every thought, but you can guide your focus. You can direct your energy. You can return over and over to the frequency of joy, love, trust, power, peace. Not because the outside is perfect, but because you've decided to be magnetic. You've decided to become a receiver. Not by force, not by fear, but by feeling. And that feeling, that vibration, is the real secret behind every miracle. Number 4, rewrite the subconscious narrative. There is a silent story playing inside you, a hidden script that no one sees but everyone feels. Through the choices you make, the limits you accept, the patterns you repeat, and the dreams you doubt. And Eva Hartley, in her Soul Awakening teachings, reminds us with unwavering clarity that if you don't rewrite the subconscious narrative running your life, no amount of manifesting rituals, affirmations, or visualizations will ever lead to real transformation. Because the subconscious mind is the gatekeeper of your reality, the hidden engine behind every decision, reaction, and emotional default. And what's stored there is not logic but identity, programming and memory etched in from the earliest years of your life when you had no filters, no shields, no critical thinking, only absorption, only open download from the world around you. If as a child you were taught, directly or indirectly, that you are not enough, that love must be earned, that safety comes from control, that money is hard to get, that dreams are dangerous, or that joy is followed by punishment, then those lessons became imprints in your subconscious. And even as an adult, trying to manifest new outcomes, you're still operating on outdated scripts written by pain, fear, and survival. So, in that instance, becoming that person that deserved better, written by pain, fear, and survival. That's why you can want love but keep pushing it away. That's why you can pray for wealth but subconsciously sabotage abundance. That's why you can desire freedom and still feel trapped. Because your subconscious beliefs, the ones you didn't choose but inherited, are creating a ceiling you can't break, a loop you can't exit, until you bring them to the surface and rewrite them with intention, truth, and deep emotional alignment. God doesn't ask us to blame our past. She asks us to become aware of its invisible grip. Because without that awareness, you'll keep confusing your trauma for your truth, your wound for your wisdom, and you'll fight against shadows, thinking they're reality. Your subconscious mind controls up to 95% of your life. That means you're only consciously choosing 5%. The rest is automation, memory, programming, and pattern. And here lies the miracle. What was once programmed into you without your consent, you now have the power to reprogram with deliberate intent. But this isn't surface work. This is soul work. This isn't just changing what you think. It's transforming what you believe to be possible for you at the deepest emotional level. Because until you change who you think you are, you cannot sustainably change what you experience. If your subconscious says, I'm not worthy of love, then no relationship, no matter how beautiful, will feel safe. If your subconscious says, money is dangerous, you will unconsciously repel wealth even while chasing it. If your subconscious says, success makes me alone, you'll self-sabotage every time you close to breakthrough. The subconscious narrative is the thermostat of your life, and no matter how high you consciously turn the dial, you'll always be pulled back to the temperature your inner programming believes is safe. So how do you rewrite it? Eva guides us into this sacred process, not through force or denial, but through awareness, compassion, repetition, and emotional realignment. First, you become the observer. You start to catch the inner critic, the scarcity loop, the fear that shows up every time something good begins. You notice the moments you shrink, the stories you tell yourself about why you can't, why it won't work, why it's too late. You journal these thoughts, not to entertain them, but to expose them. Because what is exposed can be healed. Second, you question the source. Where did I first learn this? Second thing, you explore the source. Where did I first learn this? Who told me this? Is this belief mine or is it inherited? Often you'll find that the limiting belief came from a parent's struggle, a teacher's comment, a childhood wound, or a generational pattern passed down without question. But just because it was given to you does not mean it belongs to you. And the moment you separate yourself from the belief, you loosen its grip. Third, you introduce a new narrative, not just in your head, but in your body, in your nervous system, in your emotional landscape. You create affirmations that don't just sound good, but feel safe. I am worthy of love even when I am not perfect. It is safe for me to have more than enough. Success can be peaceful, not stressful. These aren't just words, they are new neurological pathways being carved in your mind, new grooves being created in your reality map. But here's the key. Your subconscious doesn't change through logic. It changes through feeling and repetition. So you must feel these new beliefs emotionally. You must sit with them, breathe them in, repeat them when you're calm and also when you're triggered. You must reparent the scared parts of you that still believe they're not enough, not safe, not lovable. Eva emphasizes this emotional repetition because your subconscious doesn't speak English. It speaks frequency. The more often you flood it with new emotional truths, the more it begins to update your internal programming. This takes time. You don't undo 20 years of fear in 20 minutes of journaling. But every time you choose the new thought, every time you calm your nervous system, every time you anchor into the upgraded belief, you are rewriting the narrative. Not just in your mind, but in your energy field. And as your energy shifts, your results begin to mirror that shift. You'll notice you no longer tolerate chaos. You no longer chase validation. You no longer attach your worth to outcomes. You'll begin to attract different people, different opportunities, not because the world changed, but because you change, the version of you that the world meets. The world responds to your subconscious identity, and when you shift that identity, your whole life realigns. What once felt out of reach now feels natural. What once felt scary now feels exciting. You stop surviving and start receiving. You stop doubting and start allowing. This is the true power of rewriting the subconscious. It frees you from inherited limitation and returns you to your divine potential. It gives you back the pen. It allows you to say, I choose who I am. I choose what I believe. I choose what I allow. And this choice, made daily, becomes your liberation. Eva Hartley calls this energetic rebirth. The moment when you stop living from your wounds and start creating from your worth. And that's not just healing, that's transformation. That's when you stop manifesting from desperation and start manifesting from identity. Not, I want to be abundant, but I am abundance. Not, I hope someone loves me, but I radiate love. Not, I'll be enough when, but I am enough now. And when that becomes your truth, not just intellectually, but emotionally, energetically, spiritually, the universe has no choice but to reflect it. Because your reality is nothing more than a projection of your inner script. Change the script, and the movie changes. Rewrite the subconscious, and the life rewrites itself. This is the work Eva invites you into. Not to become someone new, but to remember who you were before the world taught you to forget, before the fear, before the doubt, before the limitation, that you, whole, powerful, infinite, still lives within you, waiting not to be created, but to be remembered, reclaimed, and rewritten into every page of your story, moving forward. Number 5. Self-worth is the manifestation multiplier. If there is one unseen force that controls the speed, strength, and stability of every manifestation, it is not desire, discipline, or even belief. It is self-worth. And Eva Hartley teaches with unwavering clarity that self-worth is not just a personal issue, it is an energetic currency. It is the hidden switch behind everything you allow or block in your life, and until you update your sense of worth, your reality will always reflect the outdated version of yourself that you secretly believe is all you deserve. Because manifestation doesn't come from begging, hoping, or even working the hardest. It comes from becoming a vibrational match for what you desire. And that match is always rooted in worthiness, in the inner knowing that what you ask for is not just possible, but natural for someone like you. And here's the core truth most people never confront. You are not receiving what you want. You are receiving what you believe you are worthy of. And no matter how many affirmations you chant or vision boards you create, if deep down you feel unworthy of love, of money, of peace, of joy, then you will subconsciously block, delay, or sabotage the very blessings you crave, because your subconscious mind will never let you hold on to something that contradicts your inner identity. And this is why Eva says that healing your self-worth is not optional, it is foundational. It is the ground beneath your manifestations. It is the multiplier. The more worthy you feel, the more you expand your receiving channel, and the faster, fuller, and more gracefully your desires flow into your life. And not because the universe was withholding from you, but because you were unconsciously withholding from yourself. Because when you don't feel worthy, you deflect compliments, you undercharge your gifts, you date people who don't honor you, you stay in jobs that drain you, you say yes when you mean no, you overgive, overproof, over-apologize, and then wonder why the universe isn't responding. But it is. It's responding perfectly to your energetic broadcast, and that broadcast is formed not by what you say, but by how you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you hold yourself in your own emotional arms when no one is watching. Because worthiness is not just about self-esteem, it's about self-permission. It's about saying, I allow this level of love, this level of ease, this level of joy. And the moment you give yourself that permission, you shift your entire frequency. Because high self-worth is quiet, calm, and magnetic. It doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't beg, it blesses. It doesn't compare, it commands. And this is the inner glow that changes the way the world responds to you. Because people, opportunities, and outcomes are simply mirrors reflecting the way you treat yourself. And if your internal dialogue is laced with shame, guilt, scarcity, and self-rejection, then you are vibrating at a level that cannot support the high-quality manifestations you're asking for. Not because you don't deserve them, but because you won't feel safe enough to receive them, to hold them, to keep them. And this is why Eva teaches that worthiness must be embodied, not just understood. Because you can read every book, attend every seminar, and still feel like an imposter if you haven't addressed the emotional wounds underneath your self-concept. The moments in your life where you learned to believe that your value was conditional, based on performance, perfection, approval, or sacrifice. And those beliefs don't just go away with logic. They have to be rewritten through experience, repetition, and compassionate self-repair. And it starts with choosing. Choosing to see yourself as someone who is inherently valuable, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Not because of what you produce, but because you exist. Because your world is not a reward, it is your birthright. And the more you reconnect with that truth, the more your world shifts to meet you there. You'll stop chasing people who don't see you. You'll stop settling for less than you need. You'll stop negotiating your needs to make others comfortable. Because now, your energy will say, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm not afraid to eat alone. And from that posture of inner power, everything changes. Because when you radiate worthiness, you don't have to force anything. You simply receive. You become a magnet for aligned love, for financial ease, for soul-nourishing friendships, for peaceful expansion. Not because you're lucky, but because you've done the inner work to raise your receiving ceiling. And you no longer block or question the good. You let it in, you trust it, you honor it, and you hold it. Because now it matches who you've become. And this is the truth Eva speaks into your bones. Self-worth is the container that holds your manifestation, and the size of that container determines how much you can actually receive without fear, guilt, or self-sabotage. So if you're wondering why things aren't arriving, ask yourself, do I actually feel safe with the level of love I'm calling in? Do I actually believe I deserve the wealth I'm asking for? Do I believe I am good enough to rest, to shine, to be seen, to be celebrated? Because your answer to these questions will tell you everything about the subconscious blocks that may be distorting your signal. And when you begin to clean those distortions with love, presence, and conscious reprogramming, you'll notice how your external life begins to reflect your internal upgrades. You'll start receiving things you used to dream about, not because they're finally being sent, but because you finally feel worthy of holding them. And worthiness isn't arrogance, it's alignment, it's coming back into agreement with your divine nature. It's reclaiming the parts of you that were taught to shrink, to hide, to earn love by betraying yourself. And Eva's message is this: you don't have to become worthy. You already are. You just have to unlearn the lie that you're not. And once you do, once you look in the mirror and see someone who is enough, who is deserving, who is ready, the universe sees it too and begins to rearrange in your favor. Not because you proved yourself, but because you remembered yourself. And from that remembrance, you begin to manifest a life that finally feels like home. Number 6, the feminine principle. Receive without force. There is a silent power so often misunderstood in the modern world. A force not rooted in action, competition, or control, but in flow, surrender, and magnetism. And Eva Hartley, in her soul awakening work, Manifest and Receive, brings this truth to light with divine clarity by revealing what she calls the feminine principle, the sacred ability to receive without force, to call things in not by chasing them down, but by becoming a vibrational match so deeply aligned with your desires that the universe cannot help but respond. Because while most of the world worships the masculine path, action, logic, hustle, performance, domination, Eva reminds us that there is another way, a softer yet infinitely more powerful path, and that is the path of feminine energy, not defined by gender, but by energetic state, an inner place where trust replaces control, where stillness replaces struggle, where attraction replaces pursuit, where being becomes more potent than doing, and in a culture addicted to hustle, burnout, and over-affording, where self-worth is often tied to productivity and rest is mistaken for laziness, this feminine principle feels foreign, even dangerous, because we've been taught that unless we're pushing, striving, fixing, planning, controlling, we're falling behind. But this belief system is rooted in fear, in scarcity, in the illusion that manifestation only responds to labor, when in truth, the universe responds not to how hard you work, but how clean your energy is. And the feminine principle is the frequency of clean, clear, aligned energy that magnetizes outcomes without needing to chase them, because it understands that what is meant for you cannot miss you, and you don't need to grip life so tightly to prove your worth or earn your desires. Instead, you become still enough, receptive enough, embodied enough to receive them. And this shift from force to flow changes everything, not because you stop taking action, but because your action is now inspired, not frantic, guided, not grasping, magnetic, not mechanical. You move when it's time to move, not out of fear. You're running out of time. And in that sacred stillness, you begin to access a deeper knowing that says, I don't need to chase what I already am. Because the feminine doesn't pursue, it prepares, it invites, it receives. And when you step into this principle, you stop asking, how do I make this happen? And start asking, who do I need to become to allow this in? A radical shift from control to co-creation, from panic to presence. And Eva teaches that receiving is an art, a vibration, a softening into the truth that your power lies not in how much you can push, but in how much you can hold. Hold energy, hold frequency, hold belief, hold desire, hold joy, without rushing to force an outcome. And this is not passive. This is sacred embodiment, the kind that says, I trust myself, I trust the timing, I trust life, and in that trust, the universe rushes to fill the space you've opened through surrender. Because force creates friction, but receptivity creates flow. And you begin to realize that the more you let go of needing to make it happen, the faster it arrives, not because you gave up, but because you stopped resisting the very thing trying to come to you. And this principle is especially powerful for those who have been wounded by hustle, those who've been in survival mode for so long that they don't know what it feels like to rest without guilt, to pause without panic, to let go without fear. And for them, the feminine path is not weakness, it is medicine, a spiritual recalibration that says you are allowed to receive simply because you exist. You don't have to prove your worth to the universe. Your worth is what calls the blessings in. And the more you deepen into that self-worth, the more easefully life begins to move in your favor, because feminine energy is rooted in trust. Trust in your timing, trust in your intuition, trust in your divine ability to call forth what you need through alignment, not exhaustion. And it doesn't mean you never act. It means you don't act until you're aligned, until the inner signal says go. And when you move from that place, your action becomes exponential, powerful, swift, and effective, because it is backed by universal flow, not egoic pressure. And this is the secret most people miss in the manifestation journey. They burn themselves out trying to control every detail, trying to micromanage the universe, trying to make things happen. But the feminine principle says, allow it to happen, prepare for it, believe in it, and rest in the knowing that it is already yours. And this is not fantasy, this is quantum law, because when your energy is clear and your belief is embodied, you begin to live in the timeline where your desire has already manifested, and the outer world simply catches up to your inner state, and you find yourself walking in grace, in synchronicity, in miracles that feel natural, not because you fought for them, but because you stopped fighting yourself, stopped doubting your worth, stopped clinging to outcomes, and started living in alignment with what already belongs to you. And the feminine teaches you to make space for what you want, to open emotionally, spiritually, energetically, to trust that the work you've done is enough, that the vision you hold is valid, that the universe is always working behind the scenes on your behalf. And this trust becomes the container through which you receive not just what you've asked for, but what you didn't even know you needed. Because feminine receptivity is not about getting what you want, it's about becoming who you really are, so you can receive what aligns with your highest truth. And in this way, receiving becomes not a passive hope, but an active embodiment, a deep spiritual practice where you learn to hold joy without waiting for the other shoe to drop, to sit in peace without thinking you're falling behind, to feel beautiful without needing external validation, to rest without needing to justify it. And in that wholeness, everything changes. Your relationships deepen, your creativity flourishes, your finances expand, not because you chase these outcomes, but because you stopped leaking your energy into fear and started channeling it into presence. And this is what Eva Hartley means when she says, receive without force, not to avoid action, but to elevate your consciousness to a level where action is no longer driven by desperation, but by devotion, by inspiration, by divine timing. And when you live this way, you don't need to convince the world of your power. Your energy speaks it for you. You don't need to manipulate people into loving you. Your self-love draws in those who match it. You don't need to run yourself into the ground for money. Your abundance consciousness becomes a magnet. And the moment you realize that your most powerful manifestations come from the stillness of being, not the strain of doing, is the moment your entire life enters flow. Not because you gave up, but because you finally came home to your own alignment, your own essence, your own divine truth that says, I am enough, I am ready, I allow, I receive. And from that vibration, that deeply embodied, magnetic feminine vibration, you manifest not with pressure, but with presence. Not with hustle, but with heart. And the universe finally, unhindered by your resistance, rushes in to fill the space you've opened, not as a reward for doing everything right, but as a reflection of who you've become. A clear, open, aligned vessel of receiving, of grace, of miracles, of magic. Number 7, the power of thank you before it happens. There is a hidden law of manifestation that few ever truly understand. A sacred code that, when practiced with sincerity, has the power to collapse timelines, accelerate outcomes, and unlock the miraculous. And Eva Hartley, in her teachings, calls this law the power of thank you before it happens, the vibrational secret of gratitude in advance. And though it may seem simple on the surface, it is in truth the most profound and spiritually advanced frequency you can embody, because it requires the ultimate surrender, the deepest trust, the boldest form of faith, the kind of faith that thanks the universe not when the blessing arrives, but before, not when the evidence is visible, but when it's only a whisper in your soul, not when the circumstances are perfect, but when nothing yet makes sense. And still you bow your head and whisper, thank you, because I know it's already done. And in that moment, something powerful happens. Your energy changes, your signal shifts, your entire electromagnetic field aligns with the version of you who has already received. And this alignment, this emotional congruence between your desire and your vibration is what cracks open the flow of manifestation, because the universe doesn't just respond to what you want. It responds to who you are being now. And when you embody gratitude in advance, you stop being someone who is waiting, hoping, begging, or doubting, and you become someone who is receiving, allowing, trusting, and aligned. And Eva teaches this not as a philosophy, but as a spiritual technology, a living practice that rewires your nervous system, dissolves scarcity, overrides the subconscious blocks of not yet, and tells life itself, I already feel what it will feel like when it comes, so you might as well bring it now. Because gratitude is more than a thank you. It's a frequency of completion, a signal of fulfillment, a vibration that says, it's already mine. And in quantum reality, where time is fluid and outcomes are vibrationally attracted, that feeling is the manifestation. And when you stay in that space long enough, not just occasionally, but consistently, emotionally, reverently, the physical form of your desire must meet you, not because you forced it, but because you felt it first. And this is what separates wishful thinking from embodied receiving. Because most people only say thank you after the result, which is logical, safe, expected. But Eva dares us to thank before, to thank while it's still invisible, to thank through the silence, to thank while it's storming, to thank in the dark. And this is not delusion, this is declaration, a bold, energetic announcement that says, I trust so deeply. I'm celebrating before the outcome even arrives. And the moment you do that, you flip the script, you become the script, and your external life begins to echo the certainty of your internal reality. Because you're no longer vibrating with lack or separation, but with completion. And the universe matches your energy always. And when your energy says, thank you, I know it's mine, the universe aligns the people, places, and opportunities to reflect that knowing back to you. And here's the beauty, Eva reveals. This isn't about manipulating the universe. It's about becoming the version of yourself who doesn't need to be convinced anymore. The one who walks in faith, so unshakable that the manifestation becomes inevitable. And this is the frequency where miracles live, the space where timelines collapse, the realm where one moment of felt gratitude can do what years of mental struggle could not. Because when you feel the emotion of already having it, whether it's the love, the home, the healing, the money, the peace, you become one with the version of you who lives in that reality. And from there, everything begins to rearrange, not because you demanded it, but because you received it energetically first. And now the physical is just catching up. And this is why Eva says, if you want to speed it up, stop trying so hard to get and start learning how to thank, how to feel, how to soften into the certainty that what's meant for you is not just possible, it's promise. And your job is to meet the promise in vibration before you see it in sight. And she teaches that true gratitude, the kind that shifts destiny, is not about faking it or forcing it, but about choosing it in the face of delay, disappointment, and the unknown. The tool to call your desires and your insight is to put it all together by dint. The tool to call your desires and your insight is to put it all together by dint. The tool to call your desires and your insight is to put it all together by dint. The tool to call your desires and your insight is to put it all together by, and this is the spiritual muscle few are willing to build. Because it asks you to believe when there's no evidence, to rejoice before you've received, to stand in the dark and say thank you. With tears in your eyes and trembling in your voice, not because you're pretending, but because you've decided to trust that deeply. And that trust is what opens the floodgates. That trust is what changes your chemistry, your magnetism, your timeline. Because the moment you feel it fully is the moment the universe responds. And sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it takes time, but the delay is never punishment. It's preparation, calibration, divine orchestration, moving behind the scenes in ways you can't yet see. And your gratitude becomes the beacon that keeps your energy clean, your heart open, your signal strong, so that when it does arrive, you're not surprised. You're ready. And you meet the miracle as someone who always knew it was coming. And that is the most powerful way to receive, with peace, with poise, with presence, with praise, because you didn't just want it, you welcomed it in advance. You honored it before it appeared. And in doing so, you honored yourself, your path, your connection to the infinite, because this practice is not just about getting what you want. It's about becoming someone who lives in permanent partnership with the divine. Someone who wakes up and says, thank you. And then on this earth, you honored it by becoming. Someone who wakes up and says, thank you. And then on this earth, you honored it by becoming. It's not something you do. 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 It's not before the day begins, someone who plants seeds of praise even when the ground looks barren, someone who trusts that the invisible world is more real than the one we see, and who walks as though the universe is conspiring in her favor because it is, because it always was. And your gratitude is the proof that you believe it. And Eva's invitation is to make this your new way of being, to let thank you be your mantra, your medicine, your magnetic pull, to wake up saying it, to go to sleep whispering it, to speak it over your life, over your body, over your bank account, over your future, even while it's still unfolding, and not because you're trying to trick the universe, but because you're choosing to align with the highest frequency of truth, that you are safe, supported, chosen, worthy, guided. And the more you affirm that through gratitude, the more your reality bends to reflect that belief. And the most powerful manifestors on the planet are not the ones who know all the techniques. They're the ones who've trained themselves to feel thankful in advance, who live with open hearts, open hands and open eyes, who don't wait for life to prove itself before they praise it, who say thank you through the waiting, the aching, the learning, and the becoming. And in doing so, they open portals of abundance no logic could ever explain. Because the universe is not logical. It is energetic, emotional, responsive to feeling. And gratitude is the most potent feeling of all. The one that creates a field around you so magnetic that blessings feel safe entering your life. Because you've made space for them, because you've already celebrated them. And when you become that kind of person, the one who says thank you before it happens, you become unstoppable, unshakable, untouchable by fear, because even in the absence of form, you are full. And that fullness is what makes you a match for everything you've ever dreamed of and more. Number 8, you are always manifesting, even the wrong things. There is a truth most people resist because it demands responsibility, not excuses, ownership instead of blame. And Eva Hartley, in her paradigm-shifting work, Manifest and Receive, delivers this truth with graceful but piercing clarity. You are always manifesting, even the wrong things. And the moment you realize that manifestation is not something you turn on and off like a light switch, but a constant process, a 24/7 broadcast of your dominant vibration, your emotional tone, your subconscious beliefs, your mental habits, and your inner conversations, is the moment you reclaim your power, not just to create better outcomes, but to stop creating pain from the unconscious loops you didn't even know were still active. Because manifestation is not just about vision boards, scripting, or visualization rituals. It's about the energy you live in, the identity you embody, the story you keep repeating beneath your breath, the emotion you marinate in when no one's watching, and even when you're not trying to manifest. You are. Your thoughts are electric. Your feelings are magnetic. Your beliefs are the mold, and your reality is the printout. And if you've ever found yourself stuck in the same relationship dynamics, financial struggles, emotional spirals, or repeating outcomes that make you feel small, broke, invisible, or not enough, then what you're witnessing is not failure. It's proof that your inner world is more powerful than your outer effort. And Eva wants you to see that these manifestations, even the painful ones, are not punishments, but mirrors, divine reflections, showing you what frequencies, identities, wounds, and beliefs you've unconsciously fused with. Because the universe is not biased. It doesn't punish or reward. It responds. And it responds to the dominant signal you emit. Not the affirmations you chant once a day, but the emotional reality you live in moment to moment. And when that signal is grounded in fear, self-doubt, unworthiness, guilt, shame, scarcity, or resignation, it doesn't matter how beautiful your desires are. You will still unconsciously recreate the familiar pain, not because you want it, but because some part of you is still expecting it, still identifying with it, still feeding it emotionally. And that's what most people don't realize. Manifestation is not a conscious-only process. It's a subconscious default system, and unless you become radically aware of what you're broadcasting, you will continue to attract versions of the past, no matter how much you consciously wish for better, because the universe matches your subconscious. Not your mouth, but your core. And if your core still believes, I always get left, I'm not good enough, I have to struggle to earn love, I don't deserve ease, then your reality will shape itself to validate those beliefs, and it will look like fate, but it's not fate. It's unexamined frequency, looping again and again like a broken record, until you press stop, until you sit with your pain not as a victim but as a creator, and ask, what belief is this proving true? What story am I feeding with my fear? And once you ask that with openness and courage, the unconscious becomes conscious, and you get to choose again, to interrupt the pattern, to reprogram your baseline vibration. And Eva teaches that everything starts not with action, but with awareness. The awareness that you are already manifesting, that your life is not happening to you, but through you. And if you can accidentally create the wrong things through emotional autopilot, imagine what you can consciously create through intention, to passion, to make something happen that you already need through intent, embodiment, and alignment. And this is where the work begins. Not just dreaming, but debugging. Not just visioning, but vibrating differently. Catching your inner critic mid-sentence and replacing it with truth. Noticing when you're about to spiral and choosing presence instead. Observing your recurring fears and meeting them with compassion. And the more you do this, the more you shift from manifesting pain to manifesting power. From recreating trauma to releasing it. From repeating old cycles to rewriting your identity. And here's what Eva makes beautifully clear. Manifestation is not just about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you really are. And when you live as your truest self, your reality has no choice but to adjust. Because the outer always bends to match the inner. And this means your work is not to chase outcomes, but to align your being, not to hustle for miracles, but to become the version of you who naturally receives them. And if that version has been buried under years of shame, rejection, or survival, then the process of manifesting the right things is really the process of remembering who you were before the world taught you to settle for the wrong ones, the wrong partners, the wrong jobs, the wrong identities, the wrong patterns. And when you wake up to this truth, when you say no more to being an unconscious creator of cycles that hurt you, you begin to wield manifestation like a sacred tool, not as a fantasy machine, but as an alignment system. And you start asking better questions. What am I rehearsing emotionally every day? What do I really believe about love, money, success, worth, What am I attracting by default and how do I change the setting? And this is not easy. It requires honesty, presence, inner work, but it is the work that sets you free, because once you master the awareness that you're always manifesting, you stop blaming others for what you co-create. You stop begging the universe for change while staying energetically the same, and you step into maturity, the spiritual maturity that says, I own my part, and therefore I own my power. And from that place you become unstoppable. Because now you understand that every word you speak, every thought you indulge, every feeling you dwell in is a signal. And that signal is building your next experience. And the beautiful part is this: you don't need perfection to manifest better. You need alignment. You don't need to control every thought. You need to raise your baseline. And Eva's message is this: stop waiting for life to give you better so you can feel better. Feel better now, and life will rise to meet you. And when you mess up, because you will, when you fall back into fear, doubt, lack, don't spiral. Just reset. Just breathe. Just choose again. Because the moment you choose a new emotion, a new story, a new identity, you begin manifesting something new. And deep down, there's something deeper than you that you could see in the moment, that you think you could do. Because the moment you choose a new emotion, a new story, a new identity, you begin manifesting something new. And even that awareness is powerful. The awareness that you are never stuck, only on repeat. And you can change the track at any moment. And the longer you hold the new track, the new frequency, the new self-concept, the more reality reflects it back with blessings that once felt impossible, not because they were ever out of reach, but because you were tuned to a station that couldn't receive them. And now finally you are. And that shift from unconscious creator to intentional manifester is what unlocks the door to a life you don't have to escape from, to love that feels safe, to abundance that stays, to joy that expands. And this is the true essence of manifestation. Not magic, but mastery, emotional mastery, the daily devotion to becoming the version of you who no longer creates pain from programming, but peace from presence. Not drama from wounds, but destiny from alignment. To feel an energy from love. To peel from presence. Not drama from wounds. To destiny from alignment. And when you live like this, when you remember moment by moment that you are always manifesting even the wrong things, you start using that truth to your advantage. And the things that used to feel random, chaotic, or cursed now make perfect sense. Not because they were fair, but because they were reflections. And now that you've upgraded the source, the reflection changes too. And that is the day you stop feeling like a victim of life and start walking as the conscious creator you were born to be. Number 9, everything is energy. Match it to receive it. There is one truth that underlies all manifestation, one foundation that explains every result, every delay, every synchronicity, every experience you attract. And Eva Hartley, with crystal clarity and deep emotional resonance, calls it what it is. Everything is energy. Match it to receive it. Because before anything shows up in the physical world, it exists first in the energetic realm, vibrating as frequency, as feeling, as possibility. And manifestation is simply the art of collapsing that energy into form by becoming equal to it, by tuning your entire being, your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, actions, and identity to the frequency of the thing you desire, so that the law of resonance can do what it always does: attract like to like, mirror vibration to vibration, bring experience to embodiment. And this is not just spirituality, it is physics, quantum reality, emotional intelligence, and energetic precision working together. Because you do not get what you want, you get what you are a vibrational match to. And this truth is both a revelation and a responsibility, because it means you don't have to chase what you want, you have to become it, align with it, live from the feeling of already having it, speak from the belief that it is inevitable, walk with the energy of course it's coming. And Eva teaches that most people delay their manifestations, not because they're unworthy or unlucky, but because they're trying to attract high frequency outcomes from low frequency states, asking for abundance while vibrating in scarcity, asking for love while anchored in abandonment, asking for peace while living in anxiety. And no matter how much you pray, visualize or journal, if your dominant energy is rooted in fear, doubt, neediness, or unworthiness, you are repelling the very thing you're trying to call in, not because you're being punished, but because energy doesn't lie, and you cannot receive what you are not a match for. And the key is not to fake the vibration, but to shift it authentically, to raise your frequency from the inside out. And that means healing, releasing, forgiving, reprogramming, and most of all, feeling your way into alignment. Because alignment isn't about pretending to be happy all the time. It's about being energetically honest and emotionally sovereign enough to choose the vibration that matches your future, not your past. And this requires awareness, because every emotion carries a frequency, and you are broadcasting constantly through your tone, your posture, your reactions, your intentions, your inner dialogue, your expectations. And the universe is always listening, not to your words, but to your signal. And when that signal becomes coherent, when your heart and mind and body and spirit are all aligned in the same direction, manifestation becomes natural, not because you forced it, but because you finally stop resisting it. And Eva breaks this down with soul clarity. Think of your desire as a radio station. It's already broadcasting, already playing somewhere in the energetic realm. And your only job is to tune in, not to build the station from scratch, but to match its frequency so precisely that you become a living antenna for that reality, and it cannot help but show up, because now there is no static, no interference, no contradiction between what you want and who you're being. And this is why she says manifestation is less about effort and more about energetic accuracy. And when you finally align your frequency to what you're calling in, whether it's love, wealth, joy, healing, clarity, or peace, it feels inevitable, not because it's guaranteed by fate, but because it's backed by frequency. And frequency never fails. It only reflects. And you must ask yourself, what am I reflecting right now? Am I aligned with the energy of receiving or the fear of losing? Am I broadcasting trust or tension? Expansion or contraction? Because the energy you live in is the magnet you're holding, and the universe is responding with precision, not preference, not judgment, just vibration. And this is where true transformation begins. Not in manipulating outcomes, but in mastering energy. And Eva gives us the path. Feel what it would feel like to already have it, not just once a day, but as your new normal, your emotional home, your nervous system's new set point. Because when you stabilize that feeling, when you become the version of you who already has the thing comes not as a miracle, but as a match. And the deeper you go into this work, the more you realize that energy is not just a concept. It's the architecture of your life, the silent blueprint that shapes your reality in every moment and every shift you make. From fear to faith, from doubt to certainty, from control to surrender, is a recalibration of frequency, and that recalibration is what collapses timelines, processes, and balances to produce all the things that you call into you to do. And if you come from a place of comparing yourself to other people, from skepticism to complete confidence and change, from comparison to connection, to connection, to control, is moment to moment, controlled and influenced by soul, from sense of self to sense of connect, accelerates manifestations and opens you to receive what was always yours in potential, but not yet yours in embodiment. And now finally it can land because you made space for it, not by asking harder, but by becoming different. And this is the art of true receiving, to match the frequency of what you want so fully that its arrival becomes a byproduct of your being, not a reward for your striving. And Eva shows us that this is not magic. It's alignment, it's intention, it's frequency. And the more consistently you hold that frequency, the more effortless life becomes. Because now you're swimming downstream, not upstream. Flowing with your desire, not chasing it. Attracting from identity, not effort. And this is the secret the ancients knew, the mystics felt, the quantum scientists confirm. Everything is energy, and energy responds to coherence, to emotional alignment, to vibrational certainty. And when you become that, not for a moment, but as a way of life, you become a portal for the miraculous, a living magnet for everything meant for you, and it